Hello and welcome to the second week of the Natural State Update. I'm Christina Munoz, and we are bringing you relevant information that impacts Arkansans on a digital platform. And yes, we have a website, naturalstateupdate.com. A big thank you to all of you who have followed us and liked or commented on our stories, and especially to those of you who have shared our first episode. Be sure to let us know what you think and send us your story ideas at info@naturalstateupdate.com. Here's a look at your information update for this week. If you are a veteran, first, thank you for your service. Also, you are the focus of an initiative by the Secretary of State's office this month. Representatives will be reaching out to veterans throughout the state to be sure they are registered to vote and ready to vote. You can search the hashtag ARVetsVote to find out more information. And along with the price of a lot of goods and services, the price of stamps is likely going up. The U.S. Postal Service is planning to increase the price of a first-class Mail Forever stamp from 58 cents to 60 cents. That's about a 6.5% increase, which is actually lower than the annual inflation rate of 7.9%, as reported by the Department of Labor in February. If fully approved, the change will happen July 10th. In business news, if you know me well, you know that I'm very excited about this new restaurant. Fazoli's will open its doors in North Little Rock this week. It'll be over by Target near McCain Boulevard. And if you're not familiar, we're talking about pasta and breadsticks. Need I say more? And any baseball fans out there, the Arkansas Travs started their season last week, and their first home games are this week. Of their 138 games, 69 will be at home, so we can all get some Fazoli's and then head over to Dickey Stevens Park, right? Okay, switching gears. Our first story this week is on a topic that you rarely see in the news. That's because unless it's about a public figure, suicide is not considered newsworthy. Not because it's not important, but because the old school belief was that it could give someone the idea. But in recent years, research has shown that's no longer the case, and that we as a society should most definitely be talking about it. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
He was the largest baby I had, 8 pounds, 3 ounces.
With 6 kids, Mary and Wesley Simpson would describe Hayden as that kid that was as close to perfect as possible.
This one was the most mild-mannered, the most even-keeled, and the one I was closest to.
Always nice, giving, friendly, sharing, even as a kid.
Hayden loved football, loved music, loved animals, loved his family and his friends, and enjoyed making fun, silly videos like many other 18-year-olds.
There was no indications. That's what was scary. I didn't realize I was living in a bubble until January 20th, 2021.
That was the day Hayden decided to end his time here on Earth.
And when I say shock, I don't mean about death. The shock that I didn't know. That's the shock. The kid that I knew so well, the kid that I spent so much time with, that I hunted with, that I played video games with, that I spoke to about all kinds of stuff, that just the hours and hours and hours of a relationship, the shock that he had done that, that he was gone, that he'd made that choice.
The Simpsons say their faith, as well as the outpouring of love from their community, are what have helped them survive this overwhelming time of devastation.
That's probably where God's hand has played the largest role. It's in the support that we've received from the community, from our church, our work, both of our places of work, the people we interact with daily. I don't know where we would be without that. I'll just be honest with you. I don't know where we would be as a family and as individuals without all the support and the love and the prayers. That's how we survived.
I feel like God is using me in this piece of share your story, help someone else.
And that's exactly what they've been doing ever since.
Talking, having conversations, wearing a t-shirt that says it's okay not to be okay, being open. He didn't just die, he's saving other ones. That's what, pain into purpose. We're turning our pain into purpose of saving others. So what if the Haydens of the world's driving down the road, see a license plate, go grocery shopping or go to your local shop, you see a shirt, those little messages, maybe that could be, hey, I'm not alone, I can call this number. I can text this number. Let me ask for help. Let me just tell one person. That's all it takes, is that one person. And it's just be a game changer, life changer.
I firmly believe that open talk about this issue is what starts the process of getting someone the help they need.
The principal at Greenbrier High School is also trying to turn this tragedy into hope by offering suicide prevention training for staff and students.
That gives them just someone to feel equipped with knowing what to look for someone who might be considering suicide, but also knowing the right questions to ask, knowing to say, if they're giving some indications that they're thinking about suicide, to say, are you thinking about suicide? Just open that door for that open talk. And from that, we've trained around 100 students and about 50 staff members, but a few of our students who have been trained have come to administrators and said, hey, this student, I've talked to them and I think they may be in crisis, and we've been able to help that student.
The school even started a student club called Lifesavers. It's all about raising awareness and identifying the struggling students before the worst can happen.
There wasn't a sense of urgency until we really had a tragedy. And that's not the way we need to respond as schools. So I encourage anyone to put a support system in place to where you're focusing on the mental health needs of students and staff members, and that you are equipping people within the community, not just the administrators, not just the counselors, but actual students, because students won't talk to students.
The Simpsons say their goal is to help remove the stigma that surrounds suicide and share the message that it's okay to not be okay.
No one takes a picture of the meal they burnt. They take a picture of the perfect steak on the grill. But there's a few that the dog ate. So, part of it is that's okay to drop the steak, to burn it, to have a bad day, to say you need help, to say you think you may have a mental health issue. It has to be okay to say that. And it has to be okay to act on that and not be judged so harshly. I think that's what's most important.
I think the kids just nowadays, they don't realize they have other options. It's life or death, literally, when you're 18. And you have to make sure we are having those hard conversations with the kids. We had no clue. And that was our scared, like, oh my gosh, if this can happen to us. This could happen to anybody. Let's get the word out. What can we do? How can we make a difference? I never want anyone to feel so alone that they don't have anyone to talk to. There's always someone to talk to and reach out and express how you're feeling.
If you've been impacted somehow by suicide, or even if you haven't, please share this story to help get the word out about awareness and prevention. And if you'd like to buy one of the t-shirts shown in this story, we'll add a link to do so. All proceeds go to the Hayden Simpson Fund, which supports suicide prevention programs at Greenbrier High School. And there are several resources out there that can help. And these are not only for those who are struggling with mental health. If you're worried about a friend or a family member, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. There's also a crisis text line. Just text HELLO to 741-741. These resources are free, available 24/7, and confidential. Now on to a much lighter subject, and one that includes another former coworker of mine. Are there any Ned Perme fans out there? Here's Ann Jansen with more on how this weatherman turned artist is spending his retirement and the unique business model of the art group.
A visitor to West Little Rock's Pleasant Ridge Shopping Center might pause at this store window. That's because everything inside is original artwork.
Inside the doors of the art gallery group are the collective works of 21 local artists who celebrate the full spectrum of color and creativity.
One of the things we'd like to be known for is truly being a hub for great artists.
General Manager Holly Tilley says the artists wear several hats. They take turns manning the gallery. It's sweat equity that helps the group's budget and adds perks for buyers.
Lots of the partners are professional artists, so they paint on a daily basis or they do their craft on a daily basis. And so not only are you getting to see and meet the artist in person, but you can hear the backstory about why they did what they did, where their inspiration comes from.
Some artists opt to share their skills by teaching classes in a small studio. It's also a place where you might run into Ned Perme, the former TV weatherman. A musician and self-proclaimed lover of all the arts, he started taking lessons 20 years ago after being inspired by other painters.
And when I would go to visit my brothers and sisters, we would go to art galleries sometimes in places like La Jolla, California, and just see the beautiful art that they have. And then I'd look at the price tag and I'm like, I can do that, but I couldn't. But that's what motivated me to begin to study art and take lessons. After you plug away at something for a long time, you get better at it.
Perme, who's a partner in the art group, says painting is therapeutic and provided a peaceful respite when COVID struck. He would spend his days painting at the gallery, listening to music, and working on a contemporary or abstract. Many of his subjects are the state's landmarks that he traveled to for live shots.
I decided to incorporate some of those beautiful spaces and places in Arkansas into my artwork, and I do an awful lot of that too.
Thanks to the group's business plan, the money from a sale goes directly to the artist.
In a traditional gallery, there's as much as a 50% markup on art. But in this situation, we're able to pass along that wholesale price, if you will, to the collector without there being that owner who has to also be paid in the process.
Tilley says the artists accept commissions and are happy to help customers discover what their styles are and even how to showcase the works in their own homes.
Honestly, some people are a little intimidated about buying artwork, and so this gives them the opportunity to see how to display it. And we've had people come in and say, well, these three look great together, I'll just take them all.
For the Natural State Update, I'm Ann Jansen.
Thank you, Ann. The gallery is open 7 days a week. It's also available to host events. Visit artgrouparkansas.com for more details. April is National Cancer Control Month, which focuses on cancer prevention and early detection, which is why we're sharing a story on a Central Arkansas man who credits a routine colonoscopy with saving his life. Jared Lee was very aware of how predominant cancer was in his family.
Like I said, my mom, her mother and dad, her brother died at 32, and it started in his colon.
But it was a relationship that his wife had made with the administrator of Gastro Arkansas that eventually got Jared to get his colonoscopy scheduled.
I was a preschool director, and Alyssa's son went to my school. She and I just have pretty much the same type of personality, just very outgoing, so we really hit it off.
The plotting between Alyssa and Andrea is why Jared finally had his colonoscopy scheduled.
I mean, you know, the wife, I don't want to say nagging, but that's basically what was going on. You know, the wife's on you about going and getting it done or whatever, and she eventually just one day come home and said, hey, this is your appointment, you know, you're going.
But this procedure ended up differently than his previous colonoscopies.
they took us to a little side room, you know. And that should have, looking back on it, you know, you think, yeah, that never happened before. Normally they just come in and tell you, you know, everything good, you know, and you're going about your way. Well, after being in there 5-10 minutes or so, they come in and talk to us and told us that they had found I don't know that they called it a tumor, you know, but they'd found a mass in there. And they, of course, was going to send it off, but he was pretty certain that it was cancer.
I tend to go to the worst. I had young kids. I knew his family history. I hate to say it, but I had him, you know, in my head, I was like, I'm going to have to plan a funeral. And I've got, you know, I'm too young for this. I'm too young to be doing this. This is not the way it was supposed to be.
The following days were a bit of a whirlwind and blur for the Lee family.
Had the surgery on Monday, went in and they removed 5.5 foot approximately of my colon to remove the mass.
He spent 29 days in the hospital. I spent every night but 2 with him. One of those was because our kids' first day of school, you know, and that was hard. I didn't want to leave him, but I knew my kids. I needed to be there for my kids too. It's just, you just feel so torn, you know. And I wanted to be strong for everybody. I didn't want them to see me crying because I didn't want them, you know, I wanted everybody to think everything was going to be okay and we're, you know, going to make it. So I would hide to cry. I would hide in the shower at the hospital and just sob, you know, but then I'd just suck it up and get going and get back out there and do what needed to be done. So, but it was tough.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt I don't do this without her. You find out just how strong your marriage is, you know, whenever you go through something like that.
Jared and Andrea are so grateful for their incredible support system, as well as the doctors, nurses, and staff at Gastro Arkansas.
They took such great care of me here, you know, that's another reason I'm here today, you know.
It's amazing. Nothing short of a miracle. I mean, you know, thank goodness we had the people in our corner that we did, because it makes a difference. You know, it makes a difference.
And they both remind everyone to consistently get your cancer screenings done.
You gotta get it done, no matter how inconvenient it seems or how much you're dreading it or anything like that. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm nothing special as far as, you know, Mr. Tough or anything like that. I'm just as big a baby as anybody else. So, and I can handle it, so, you know, anybody can handle it.
Just make them. You know, just nag. I tend, when I need Jared to do something, I tend to pull the heartstrings a little bit. Like, you know, you've got a wife and kids to take care of. But I mean, that's the truth, you know. You can't, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
You give up essentially 12, 16 hours or something, you know, for the prep, and that's the worst part, you know. After that, you know, you come to the doctor, you know, they put you out, you never know anything goes on, and it's over with, you know. So you're talking about 24 hours of this terrible suffering that everybody builds it up in their mind when it's really nothing, versus, like I said, 29 days in the hospital, another 5-6 months off of work, and it took me about a year to really get my strength back and everything, and to feel like that I was, you know, back to normal. I mean, to me, 24 hours versus a year, that's a no-brainer, you know. It's a big-time no-brainer. So cancer is so easily beatable if you're getting the proper screenings done, you know. But if you're not, you just don't stand a chance. That's why it's a no-brainer to me on getting the stuff done.
Jared continues to get checked regularly because he truly believes he wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for that life-saving colonoscopy.
We credit them, Johnson and Alyssa both. I mean, they saved my life. There's no doubt, you know.
His outcome would have definitely been different. Probably wouldn't be here today. It wouldn't be a happy story anyway.
And you hear people say all the time, you know, that once you have a life-changing or near-death experience, you know, it changes, you know, and you can talk about it and think about it, but until it actually happens, you know, you don't. It is a weird kind of deal, you know. You just realize how short life is.
To schedule your colonoscopy, you can call Gastro Arkansas at 501-664-6980. And as we shared last week, Arkansas is one of the worst in the nation when it comes to financial literacy. That's why Scott Inman joins us in an effort to educate us on important financial matters.
2022 continues to have its challenges for the economy and the stock market, but are we rebounding from an awful start to the year? A March market review in this week's Fastest 4 Minutes in Finance. Hello again, I'm Scott Inman. Well, most equity markets gained ground in March, reversing a trend of 2 straight months of declines. However, taking a look at March performance of major indices and sectors compared to the year-to-date returns shows we still have some work to do. Let's start with the S&P 500. That's the index most people are familiar with. That index, the measure of generally the largest 500 companies in America, was up 3.7% in March, but it's still down 4.6% for the first quarter of 2022. The story is similar for the Dow Jones Industrial, the technology-heavy NASDAQ, and the small-cap Russell 2000, as well as overseas markets measured by the IFA and EM. If you take a look at S&P 500 sectors, there's more of the same. Every sector was up in March except for the financial sector. Only utilities and energy, though, are positive year to date. Adding to the challenges for investors in 2022 is the volatility of the fixed income market, usually counted on to provide a damper in a diversified portfolio. March provided much of the same. Major bond indices are down as much as the stock market. Only commodities have been flyers in this current environment. It is hard to find a safe haven, much less a place for growth in the current economic environment. LPL Research and others call it a wall of worry, meaning there are multiple headwinds driving concerns. The tensions in Eastern Europe, inflation at 40-year highs, along with corresponding moves by the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates, have all contributed to investor pessimism. But what March might have shown us was the pessimism became a little too pessimistic. In other words, investors decided the value was there again, and they took advantage of marked down equities. That could mean we found the bottom in March. Maybe. Our best indicator of where the market goes from here is still earnings. The overall health of a corporation determines its stock value. And in the U.S., earnings are still strong. Analyst estimates for the S&P 500 index earnings per share over the next 4 quarters are up 1.5%. First quarter earnings will be reported this month, and we'll get a better picture then of that overall corporate health. In the meantime, it's important to keep a long-term perspective. There are always reasons not to invest in the short term, but historically, a long-term investment perspective has paid off. It is also beneficial to have a written financial or retirement plan. Having something to refer back to remind you of why you have invested the way you have and the purpose of staying committed can keep you grounded when human inclination is to abandon ship. And finally, working with a financial advisor can give you insight into how small changes to your portfolio during times like these could provide an advantage. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Scott. Once again, email us at info@naturalstateupdate.com if you have a story idea or announcement that you'd like to see shared here on the Natural State Update. You can also email us if you'd like to partner with us as a financial contributor or as a business owner who'd like to see their business featured in a story here. Next week, here on the Natural State Update, did any of you collect baseball cards as a kid? It's a hobby that is back, and for some, it's much more than just a hobby. Some trading cards are bringing in big bucks. And you may not think that the military and theater have a lot in common, but a Central Arkansas man is combining the two in a new initiative that we'll tell you all about next week. And because we always want to end on a high note, here's your encouraging word for the week. It's actually my life verse, 2 Corinthians 4:16 through 18. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. If you have a favorite Bible verse that you want to share, email us at info@naturalstateupdate.com. Thanks for joining us and hope to see you again next week. For the Natural State Update, I'm Christina Munoz.